Hi guys! So hopefully this video is going to work. I'm trying uploading a video that's pre-recorded instead of a live video in the app. Just still experimenting with this new feature, seeing what works, what doesn't work. So anyway, so today I want to talk a little bit about some habits of self-love that I think don't come easily to most of us. And if any of you were in the Love Yourself First free challenge that preceded this group, this would be familiar. But those habits are communication and setting boundaries. And when we start to learn to take care of ourselves, there are certain things that we can just do, but there are other parts of it that kind of shift and maybe upset the relationships that we're part of. So, you know, it's not always comfortable or easy. Sometimes if you're someone who's used to putting your own needs last always, then when you start to take care of your needs, other people in your life are going to have to accommodate that. And on the whole, it's a good thing, but there can be some growing pains. And, you know, hopefully you're in relationships that are strong and healthy and can kind of absorb the fallout from this. You know, relationships that are resilient. That's not always the case. And so I want you to know you can always share with me or share in here in the group if you're running into something where self-care is causing some friction in your life. I'm always here if you want to talk about the things that are happening. And I know a lot of others in this group also would be really happy to, you know, either compare notes or share strategies or just comfort you if you're dealing with difficult, I guess, consequences. But I also know that those things are so sensitive and sometimes you don't want to share it with the whole group. So you can just send a message to me, private message too, if you would rather. But so, I mean, I can think of a million examples from my own life, and I don't want to necessarily call out my husband for anything specific, but I guess the most important part of this is communicating that very often we don't communicate what we need, and then over time we become resentful of the other person for not recognizing what we need. But people aren't mind readers, and if there's something that I need that I'm not getting, I have to tell my husband. Otherwise, he's not going to know. Yes, it would be nice if maybe he can pick up on some things or notice some things, but that's kind of like the icing on the cake. We shouldn't expect our partners to be mind readers. And on top of that, we all just have such different impressions of life and of different situations. And so, somebody shared, well, I don't want to tell this story because I'll probably get the details wrong, but this is based on something someone shared in the free group, but that if there's someone who is always making critical comments towards you, and okay, you have a need not to be criticized day in and day out, you can approach that person and say, hey, when you make this type of comment, this is how I feel when I hear that. Now, in the story that was told in the free challenge, this person had the conversation, and the other person who was making the critical comments had no idea. She didn't have that awareness. And we might think it's just totally ridiculous, like, oh, it must be obvious that she's hurting my feelings. But not everyone is that sensitive to how their actions and their words are affecting other people. So the way that the story worked out, the person who had been making the critical comments later said, to the person who was telling the story, said to her, you know, I'm really glad that you spoke up because I had no idea. So just think about that. the person who was participating in the group, she could have just sat there and stewed about it and said, oh, this woman's so mean and she's just cruel and she's obviously out to hurt me. Now, maybe she was careless. Maybe she should have known how her words might be perceived, but there was a really simple solution to this situation, and it was achieved through just communicating. You know, this person didn't lash out in anger. She didn't strike back with insults. She just clearly said, you know, this is the action, this is how it makes me feel, and would you please stop? Just being direct, assertive, it's really, really hard. And so I would love to hear in the comments, after you think about it for a little bit, if there's anywhere in your life where you could speak up for yourself more, because in a way, it's the easy way out. And avoidance is definitely my tendency. I hate conflict. I would rather just keep quiet, but I've come to see that it can be really harmful to stay quiet, and it can be a lot more effective to speak up before the problem gets worse. So think about that. If there are ways where you can speak up in your relationship, in your workplace, with a family situation, with a friend situation, and I would love to share. I would love if you would share. I just think these stories are really interesting, but even if you don't want to share, think about it on your own, maybe do some journaling, and let's talk about communication and what it means in our lives if you have a story of how this has helped. And then also a success from last week. I'm going to write some text to go along with this that you probably have already seen. So you'll know, you'll be able to remember what I'm asking from you. And then next week we'll talk about boundaries. So thanks for watching. See you soon.